So this video is how to say no at work. So one of the hardest things often at work is to say no, particularly to your boss or co-workers who are asking you to do something, but you just don't have either the time or capacity to do it. So in this video, I'm just going to share with you some ways that you can do it in a constructive way, which isn't going to hurt your relationships long term. So the first thing I'd recommend is don't just say no, a flat no, but explain the reason why. So what that does is help to show that you've thought about it reasonably, but you've got a good explanation as to why. And often that actually goes against what I'd say in most other forms of life where no is no. But actually at work, if you say, I'm really sorry, Karen, I can't do that piece of work because I've got a priority for Bill, then at least they understand that you've got other work on and you're not just saying no out of pettiness or because you can't be bothered. Another thing I think works really well is if you can propose an alternative. So if you can say, I can't do that project, but I'm sure that Sheila on my team would love to, especially if you know that it's going to be a good opportunity for someone else on your team. Or if it's something that's a bit more time, like less sensitive, you can say, I can't do that for you this week, but I potentially could do it for you next week. Then that gives them an alternative to work with. Sometimes when people ask you to do things, it's not that time sensitive. And if it is, actually proposing an alternative for someone else who might be able to help out would be a good way. Now, it may not be that your team has capacity overall, so sometimes it might be suggesting an alternative, like we could get a contractor in to do that, or we could outsource that. But just showing that you want to be part of the solution rather than just passing back a problem to someone is going to help build that relationship long term. If your boss comes back and says, no, it really has to be done, then find a compromise. And often a really good way of doing that is renegotiating the other priorities you have on your desk. So if your boss is saying that everything else has to be cleared and this is a priority, then fair enough. But what you need to do is compromise with them about what else either shouldn't be delivered, can be passed off to someone else, or can have deadlines deferred on. They can't just keep heaping work on you all the time and expect you to deliver. So if someone does come back and say, actually, no, you have to do it and you have to do it like within this time frame, then just say to them, what are the other things that you can push out or take off the to-do list to give you the time and capacity to help you do it. The next thing I'd say is don't be overly honest. So if you just don't want to do it because you don't want to do it, or you find it boring or uninteresting, don't say that. But what you can do is dress that up into something which sounds a little bit more constructive and a bit more business appropriate. So you could just say something like, that doesn't really play to my skill set, but I know that Janine in our team would really like to do that. Or just say, I don't think that's the best use of like my skills right now. Is there someone else who can do it? So don't be too honest about if you think it's beneath you or you just can't be bothered. Dress it up in a way that they're going to find it a bit more palatable. Don't just do a hospital pass with it, but try and give it to someone who's actually going to benefit from it, or someone who enjoys those types of tasks. So I don't really like attention to detail or a spreadsheet. That's really going to bore me. But one of my co-workers, Suzanne, really loves those things. So if it's something that's going to be detail orientated, we'll try and give it to her to play to her strengths and allow me to focus on what's better for me. Another tip is not to say no straight away. So rather than someone coming to you and automatically you just saying no, take time to think about the request, and then, as I say, build in some of those other techniques. So perhaps proposing an alternative, but showing that you've given it proper consideration rather than an off-the-cuff or knee-jerk reaction no. If you come back to them with more of a proposal about how it could be taken forward, but don't just say no straight away, because that's going to put someone's back up and make them think that you haven't thought it through. Another thing, particularly when we're under pressure, is we can snap or say things in quite a rude way. So make sure that when you're saying no to someone, you do it with style and grace and in a positive way. So try not to let any pressure that's getting to you be passed on through your answer, but just make sure that you're kind of landing it in a way that's going to build that long-term relationship and allow you to continue to have good rapport with the people that you're working with. Everyone remembers someone who was rude, and although people understand if you're under pressure, that's not going to help you long term. You don't want to get reppers like the rude person in the corner. So just make sure that when you say no, that you're saying it with grace and style and in a positive way. Remember, it's better to say no than to say yes and not deliver. So I know there's some people who actively try to do this as a strategy, which is say they take on stuff and then only when they're pushed for it do they deliver it, just to see how important it actually was. But I think that's a dangerous game to play, and in the long run it isn't going to help you. So remember, although difficult to say no, it's often better to do that in the long run than to say yes, not deliver on something, and then create a bigger problem for everyone down the line. If you say no straight away, or once you've given it some thought, then at least the person who's asking you to do that has got time to build in a plan B or to find another solution. Whereas if you leave it until the last minute and then say no, then that's really going to put them in a position. So make sure you're managing that time frame and you're doing it in a positive way. And finally, which I think all of us need to learn, is don't overly apologise. You know, we've given a good concrete reason why, but you don't have to keep saying sorry or make it like overly apologetic. We've all got a limited amount of capacity and there's only so much we can all do, and people respond to that. If you continue to apologise, they perhaps start to think there's something else going on, and it puts them in a kind of awkward emotional position. So don't overly apologise, and just explain kind of the facts, keep it positive, and don't keep saying sorry, or, you know, that you feel like you're letting them down. Like, once you start bringing emotional blackmail into it, it's not good. So just make sure that you're doing it in a positive way and that you're removing it, like, any language that's too emotive. Saying no is one of those things that gets easier over time and the more that you practice it. So try some of these techniques and see how that works out for you. Obviously, if you've got a boss who won't take no for an answer, then that's a different issue, and you need to think about how you're going to deal with that, either through having an honest conversation with them or perhaps speaking to HR. So it's not about a boss who's got unrealistic or unreasonable expectations of you, and saying no might be difficult in those positions. It's about making sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to deliver well in your job, but also for those around you. If you have got a bad boss, I've got some more videos on those and I'll link those on the description below. But I'm Liz and I'm a partner in a consulting firm, and here on my channel we talk about the challenges you might find at work and how best to navigate them, and some tips, tricks and hacks to help you navigate your career. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.